Hi, now how do I divide this distance into three sections of more or less the same length? Say I wanted to make like three sections here. I could measure it entirely, then divide by 3, and then use some tape measure or something to measure the three different sections. But for this video I will just use it roughly eyeing method, and here I will place some images and I will pronounce these as acceptably equal sized squares. Now this video is about knowledge and information in general, and the basic point is to explain my YouTube channel editing policy, and the same goes for websites, and perhaps provide one way of looking at things, and especially related to knowledge and information. So in addition to making you laugh, I will try to place here images of a bicycle, a motorcycle, and a computer, using magic of video editing, unless I get it wrong. And what do those three things have in common? We could say that bicycle and motorcycle are both usually with two wheels, unless you have a very strange mechanic. But what about computer? Is it in any way similar? Does it have anything in common with bicycle and motorcycle? I think that we could say yes. For one, computer, motorcycle, and bicycle all use some kind of energy in order to do what they do. That is, I will refer to my video explaining power, force, and energy. I will make it pop up now so you can look at it. But a really obvious example is if we use electric bicycle, electric motorcycle, and a portable computer, laptop. All those three gadgets are using practically the same source of energy, batteries. They are using electrical energy stored in batteries. So they do have some things in common. And similarly, if you want to fix your bicycle, and you can watch videos and use manuals and do exactly as you're told, and you will get it done. That is one of the points of making things, well, in bicycle industry standards are not really standards, but making things standard, uniform, and being able to share information so that you don't need to study really hard in order to get the daily stuff that we need to a working condition. However, when something is out of standard, for example, you cannot source a part exactly the right one that you need, or something is, you're trying to build something that does not really exist to be sold, like already manufactured, and you want to make some hack to adjust something to your needs. In all those situations, it helps a lot if you understand how things work, if you have enough knowledge and understanding, so that you can account for any differences and make something that works properly. One of those examples are, in the recent years, there have been global shortages of bicycle parts, spare parts, as much as I can understand, and I've had the pleasure of living in a country that's had crises and shortages for as long as I remember, practically, apart from early childhood. So you get into a situation when you need to figure things out. And one of my conclusions based on all that is that everything is connected in one way or another. So even when you look at a bicycle, standard bicycle, not an electric bicycle, you have some knowledge of mechanics and physics, obviously, but also if you look at lubricants, like for bearings and for the chain, there is some chemistry, or I think that proper word in English is tribology. Someone correct me please if I'm wrong. So there are overlapping areas of expertise and of knowledge, and it all adds up. So if I draw the entire knowledge of humans that we have acquired so far, it's not perfect. We still don't understand everything in the world around us and all, but you can start with a relatively small amount of knowledge, and then as you learn things, it expands. But of course, not everyone has a really high level of expertise in everything. We don't live long enough, and I don't know how much information our brains can store. But we usually have, as we learn, we progress in some areas a bit more, and in other areas we progress a bit less, and so on. But I think that it is important, at least for me, it's easier to understand, even if I don't have a good grasp of some very high areas of knowledge in some sections. It's important to have at least some understanding of how it's all interacted and where it all adds up and aligns. For example, if we say this is electronics, for bicycles, if I want to use an electric bicycle, it has to have some sort of controller for the motor, so I don't need just the knowledge of electricity, but also of fine electronics and small computers, controllers. So at least some basic level of knowledge of that is important if I want to fix something that's broken or build something on my own. And even for using a computer speedometer on your bicycle, if you have that odometer, electronic one, or if you're using some power meters or even electronic shifters that are now getting more and more popular, it does overlap with that. So you need to understand that. You need to understand the basics of batteries if you want your batteries to last as long as possible without having to buy new ones very often. Sometimes it's not easy to replace. So it is all sort of interconnected, and when I do a video or an article about something, I have a pretty good understanding of where it all aligns and how it's all interconnected. And in order to explain something, it is often required to understand the basics of some adjacent area of expertise. And I try to make my whole websites and my YouTube channel such that it covers all those topics, so that it is enough to just read or watch my content. And if I mention something that requires previous basic knowledge of some other topic, I can just link to that. That is what I'm aiming for. And I want to also briefly note something that you might have already heard. Knowledge is power. That sounds like a cool, motivating phrase and whatnot, but I will share some real life experience and say a story that that would have sounded like a fantastic story if I hadn't really experienced it. So I'll try to be as brief as possible. My country was, after the Second World War, we got communism. Practically, it was technically socialism as a stepping stone towards communism, but we had one party, Communist Party, and arranging everything. And a friend of my father, his parents and grandparents had a lot of land, and all that land was taken from them, and they just got a small part of land. Everyone got the same amount of land, so all spread and shared equally. And his father told him to study, because everything else can be taken, house, land, everything, but knowledge is something that cannot be taken from you. I heard that story as a very young child when he was telling it. He was telling it in a much nicer way than what I'm able to present, but that is the basics, the bottom line. Not much later, my country got into a very nice civil war, and we got to experience a lot of shortages of everything, and spare parts, electricity, money was worthless, savings worthless practically overnight. And all that you had was what you had on you practically, and what you had here. And my father was an engineer, and my mother was a degree in chemistry, whatever it's called in English, chemist. So thanks to that, thanks to what they knew, we were able to have enough food to store that food so that it doesn't get spoiled. And since we were living in a city, in an urban area, old ways of preserving food had to be adjusted a bit to suit living in a flat and in a highly densely populated area. So some improvisation was needed. Also, we were able to salvage old batteries from wherever we could and charge them, making DIY battery chargers for those batteries that run without putting anything on fire. And so we were able, during long winter nights, days without much sunlight, to have the light to study and even to play radio. So in those terms, knowledge really is power, and you never know when a situation will come so that it always seems like it could never happen, but I've been through that. So what seemed like crazy and impossible happens just like this, and even some very wise people were not able to foresee that and prepare. So that's one reason why sorry so that's one reason why I think that knowledge is power. And another reason is that having a lot of knowledge and information can give you an opportunity to do what you like in your life, not just go crazy on everything, but whatever it is that you are into, if you have enough knowledge to do that, you can be an expert in that and do that for a living. Without knowledge, your options get limited. In my opinion, if there is one good reason to get degrees or to study, it is that it enables you to do what you maybe later on in your life figure out, hey, this is interesting, I want to do that. And it helps if you have some basic understanding of the needed knowledge and information, and it's often very hard to do that just on your own. You can hit the high points, you can see what interests you, but there are often some, depending on your area of expertise and interest, there are often some very boring basic things that need a lot of time to figure out and a lot of practicing to get it all understand and everything. And so that's one of the reasons why structured, so to speak, education can be a very good idea, in addition to having all the information available on the internet. So, and that's basically the whole video. So it's good to study, it's good to learn things, it can be very useful, it can be very fun, and don't be surprised if you see my videos go from one topic to something that looks like completely unrelated. I usually do videos on anything that is of interest to me and that I'm proficient at, and I try to put it available so that anyone else can see, and especially to get additional information and corrections from other experts and so on. So that's it. I thank you very much for watching. So just a talking video. Cheers. If you like this video, you can click on subscribe and choose this bell option, select all, so you get notified whenever I upload a new video.